The video you guys have been wanting for so long now. We're talking about unsaturated Shopify dropshipping and Shopify niches for 2023, updated this year, and probably good for a good year or two to come. In this video, I'm going to give you guys some actionable niches that have significantly dropped in volume. Competition is lower than it's ever been, and it's probably some of the best places that if you're thinking about either continuing to grow your business or getting into the idea of dropshipping, e-commerce, getting onto Shopify, these are places to start your research because it's the lowest competition with the highest reward. No, we're not talking the absolute lowest competition because at some point it doesn't make sense if there isn't enough customer volume within that niche. We're just talking about unsaturated niches that aren't being capitalized on right now in 2023. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, it's free to do. You'll make my day. I promise you really will make my day. And YouTube will keep you updated on the awesome content coming to this channel. I also promise you will make my day ×2. If you like the video, again, free to do. And let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to talk about 4 niches specifically, and 2 of them are a little bit more broad, but I'm going to tell you why they're more broad and how you dig into them. So the number 1 niche right now that is unsaturated is actually a niche that pre-COVID was very saturated, but because of rising inflation, extra costs, COVID, everyone staying inside, almost all of the competitors left the niche because it was hard to endure all of those changes and periods of no business. And the reality is this niche was so profitable that all the companies that were successful in it were so large that their economies of scale forced them out. But if you're an individual or you have a couple partners, you can actually come in and capitalize here. This niche is the seasonal and holiday niche. This means that you're going to be selling products specifically around a season or a holiday and actually trying to do all of your volume of business for that specific niche and not anywhere else. The reason here of why this is unsaturated is everyone that did this really well, did all their market research, their marketing, capitalized perfectly, had to then focus on broad stores if they were even going to save their business, if not just leave it altogether. And right now, if you do research on the data around businesses that target seasonal and holiday products and specifically target them so you get a wide array of specific products, the volume of competition is lower than it's been in like 6 or 7 years. If you want some examples of products, this could be Halloween is probably not the best one because that is still, from a retail perspective, very much capitalized on, but smaller holidays, Easter, seasons, like think about coming into spring from the winter, coming into summer from a crappy spring. The fall, rainy season, depending on where you are in the country, there's still millions and millions and tens of millions of people, if not hundreds of millions of people experiencing similar weather instances. Target something very specific, like beach things, maybe rainy weather gear. Maybe you're getting ready to hike after a cold winter and you want to find that intermediary layers or base layers. Target things that are very specific, that only apply to a small frame in time. Yes, it's going to be hard to grow your business. It's going to be a seasonal business, but no one is there right now. It is so far and in between. This is a place that you can capitalize. Next on our list, number 2, is actually extremely interesting and something that no one ever talks about. It's a little bit harder to get into because you need to be a little bit more, let's say, client-facing, stakeholder-facing. You need to have your business relationship hat on, let's say. Before I get too far into it, you've all heard the term B2C, which is business to consumer. That's how most businesses with the product space actually work. We're going to flip that. C2B. That's not really the term that's used. That's not really a term that's used company-wide. It's more B2B. But for this, if you guys are beginners, it's like customer to business, like you being the customer. Reality, it's B2B. Right? We're going business to business because you're a business. So I'm going to call it B2B. I wanted to say C2B because, again, I think a lot of people don't know the term B2B, but the term is B2B. So the reality is B2B businesses, from consumer product goods or goods for business, specifically small business, is down lower than it's ever been. Now, don't get confused here. You have Amazon, Walmart, massive retailers that most businesses are going to because it just makes sense. It's easy. They're not trying to nickel and dime. It just doesn't make sense to do that from a time perspective. What I'm talking about here is very specific targeted products that if you get them in front of a business right? Products that might be trending, new products that might be saving time. As long as you're the front person, you're going to beat out the larger retailers that then are advertising and they are found through search. This could be a brand new heat thermal printer that does XYZ. It could be a new way of storing inventory. It could be a new shelving system. Now, this is going to be much more specific, much more targeted, but there are very few companies doing this right now because the upfront is a very hard relationship management. And for most companies doing this, they need to be a company. They need to offer many products, many suites, because it doesn't make sense for a conglomerate or a larger business, even a mid-sized business, to pitch to small business. There just usually isn't enough income there. If you're a one-person, two-person show, there's real money. We're talking six figures in going out and targeting a small business countrywide, nationwide, in your state, whatever it is, and just having specific offerings. But you need to make sure they're not readily available goods or they're new things coming to the market. And you might say to yourself, like, how do I find that or anything like that? It could be as easy as going on Alibaba. These things, like, people are constantly innovating in the business and small business world. And a lot of that, it just isn't getting in the front of business owners because they're so busy, right? So all you need to do is get in front of them and you will capitalize. And through COVID, this niche sunk and it's not being competed on right now. Amazon, Walmart have it, but they don't really have it because they're not capitalizing. The next thing on our list, number 3, is targeted wearables. Again, a little bit of a vague term, but it is actually kind of specific. It's like, let's break it down. It is looking and selling products that are very, very niche down. Think 1, 2, 3, 4 product stores, right, where you carry 1 to 4 things, specifically for a certain function. So, like a good one that I just saw some ads today on my Instagram for. It was from a small business that was producing like trail running backpacks. So specifically small backpacks with a water storage function that were lightweight, very small, easy to trail run in. And the focus was literally selling to runners that are doing trail running at the beginning of the season. It's cheap, it's affordable, it's lightweight, it does exactly what you need, and you're spending like $30 on it. I bet you their profit margins are insane on that, actually, because I bet you they're mass produced. Alibaba. The reality here is that's just an example of a very targeted wearable product that right now, again, because of COVID and because of what's happened with increases in inflation and cost of goods and sourcing and all those types of things, the individual players that were in this game before have now stopped being in it because they can't compete with Amazon. But what's happened here is we've seen a shift again, where although Amazon has these products, they're not being directly marketed to individuals. And the way that Amazon is changing and these big retailers are changing is they're now promoting products that make more sense for them. We're seeing more Amazon brand promotion, more promotion from brands Amazon has actually bought and owned, and things like that. And we're seeing these little players that are trying to list on these e-commerce giants. They're just not doing as well because they're relying on that traffic. Now, don't get me wrong. They're still doing a lot of volume because they're on these giants. But the games of like individual advertising and stuff, it's down more than ever. If you have run, and I know this for a fact because I run a small business and I run ads on social media from every once in a while to test products out. I actually don't run my ads to sell things. I run them to click to a landing page just so I can get information. I find that I have problems sometimes with those customers at a larger rate, and I already know that I'm going to convert them because they're going to come to my site without it, but I run them as like A/B testing and just basically testing. I know that with targeted goods for targeted niches, competition's low. Ad rates are actually lower than they've been in the last 3 years. They're certainly higher than they were 5 years ago and 10 years ago, but they're lower. The competition is dropping. So start thinking about targeted, very niche wearables. It doesn't just have to be backpacks, it could be anything that support, think about a hobby or a very specific use, right? A very specific use, and just hammer down on that one. Number 4 on our list is probably the most broad, but it is very specific in that there's not a lot of room to play here, and basically it is products between $100 and $500. If you've been on social media at all and you see ads for products like we all do every time, you'll realize that you're not seeing ads for products that are between $100 and $500. Maybe it's because they're not targeted for you, but the reality is competition's lower. You can see this from the supplier side because I get all the reporting and analytics from Alibaba, AliExpress, and other third-party overseas suppliers because I do a lot of business through them for my own business, just interacting with suppliers and manufacturers, because Alibaba isn't just this retail site. There's like, it's the way people use payment and have escrow for payment and all this kind of interaction and rating and maintaining trust and reliability. I get the analytics behind what's selling and what's not and what's being peddled to me and what they're trying to sell me, and products between $100 and $500 that'll go to end user from us, which means products that cost between $40 and probably $250 on Alibaba and stuff, they're struggling, which all that tells me is they're not selling volume. Yes, partially the economy's not doing as well, but the reality is if you then go onto Google Trends and you look at data from all different kinds of reporting sites specifically for dropshipping and e-commerce, you'll see that the analytics show that sales are not just down, they're the same, but competition is lowering, players and volume of companies are getting lower. And, again, this isn't a blanket statement. It doesn't just mean you're going to be able to come in here and be successful, but this is where you can put your hat on and you're saying, I don't have any success with products, or I don't know what to get into. You can start looking at products that are much more targeted, right? When you're selling a product at that rate, you don't get the same volume approach. It changes everything that you're told on YouTube about how to approach dropshipping or e-commerce, because you're selling a more expensive product with a higher profit margin, but you're doing more customer interaction because they're spending more money. There's more trust. There's more other. You're just attacking the business in a different way. The reality is you don't need the same volume when you're making $150, $200 a sale versus 45 cents after cost, right? The volume game changes. So the idea of 500 sales versus 30,000, there's a totally different relationship. So you can target smaller markets as long as you're effective and all those things. We know for sure numbers are down with products of that cost. I want to leave it open-ended. This is your time to go attack that market, and I'll see you guys in the next video.